Hi, this is Everetts Watercolors. I'm broadcasting from my studio to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, and later on into Instagram. And I'm in my studio with my wife Gloria,
Hello, everyone.
and she'll be monitoring broadcast and keeping track of things that are going on. So, well, today I'm going to do a demonstration on a seascape, and we're going to see how that goes too. So let me go over to my overhead camera. See my
I'm
close-up
still
camera.
checking YouTube.
Okay, now there's my
If anyone's on YouTube and can make a comment, I'm trying to check and see if you're broadcasting.
yeah. If you're live, you see me on YouTube, make a comment to see if you're tracking it, everything's live, and if you're seeing everything. Otherwise, we'll be going blind in the weather here.
And welcome to the LinkedIn. Looks like we're broadcasting there.
Okay, welcome to LinkedIn. Okay, okay. So we'll proceed on, and it'll be rebroadcasted on YouTube and LinkedIn and also Facebook after the program. If you have any comments, give me a question or a comment during the broadcast, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And you can put the comments down in the bottom of the video in the comment section. Also, give me a thumbs up and a like. That helps my rating. So this is my reference photograph. You can see here a beautiful crashing wave here on the rocks, and I'm going to use this as a reference. I'm going to make a few changes, but this is my starting point here, the crashing wave. So what I've done is I've redrawn a little bit. I got the wave here, but I'm going to add some bigger rocks up here in the middle ground, right next to the wave. I add some bigger rocks, and I got some more foreground rocks over here. So I made a little change to my design from the photograph. I used the photograph, but then I added some more features to it. So this is my design drawing. So I'll put this aside. I'll hold this. Okay. So I put that drawing on my. I'll go over my material. This is a quarter sheet of Holbein watercolor paper. I put the drawing here on the quarter sheet. It weighs 15 inches long and about 11 inches wide. 11 inches high and 15 inches wide. That's a quarter sheet. Okay, I'm going to show it the whole thing on there. And I got the drawing on there. You can see, I'll bring it up close so you can see it. I put at least the main elements on there, the rock and the water and the sky. And that's basically all I need to have. Okay, so I got the position on there. All right, now I'll go to my palette now. And over here, I did a little color analysis here. What I'm going to do up here in the sky, I'm going to use a little bit of Alizarin Crimson, which is in this part of the palette right here. Alizarin Crimson and Cerulean Blue, and a little bit of Ultramarine Blue. So I'm going to a mixture of that in the sky. That's my sky color. And then in the water, I'm going to have a mixture of cobalt blue, no, cerulean blue and ultramarine, maybe a little touch of Payne's gray for the water. And then in the rocks, I'm going to use a little down here with my yellow ochre at the bottom left, and burnt sienna here in the middle bottom. And that's going to be my rock colors. And maybe add a little bit more of Payne's gray to give me a dark brown color for the rocks. And then the foreground water, which is going to be a reflection of the sky and also the rocks, is going to be a kind of combination of the blue and maybe a little bit of brown in there, and maybe a touch of green because of some fungus that may be in the water. So that's going to be kind of my foreground color. This is the middle ground color with the rocks. This is the water, and this is the sky. So I did a little color study there before I started the painting. So my brushes today, I'm going to use the large Hake brush. I'm going to use that to wet the sky. And I've got 3 Holbein brushes. I got a 1-inch flat Holbein synthetic, and I've got a 1/2-inch Holbein flat synthetic, and then I've got a number 16 round Holbein also synthetic. And then I'm going to use a little toothbrush today. You'll use that for the splattering and so forth. Little baby toothbrush. So those are my tools I'm going to use today. So let me go back to my. Before I go, let me go ahead and mix up my paints. I'll use the 1/2-inch brush to get started here. So I'm going to start out with that, like I said, a little bit of Alizarin Crimson in the sky. I'll start a little bit of light wash of Alizarin Crimson. That'll give me a nice warm sky, a little warmer sky than just blue. So that'll be the sky color, a little bit, starting the sky color. Then I'm going to add in there a little bit of cerulean blue up here at the top. I'll use a little bit of that. And here's the ultramarine. I'll use a little bit of ultramarine blue. Okay, that'll be for the sky. That's the sky colors right there. That's the mixtures of the sky. And it's going to be a light value to start out with. Okay. So I'll put that. That's my 1/2" brush. Now I'm going to use the. Okay, what I'm going to do now, first of all, I'm going to turn the paper over. Okay, now I've got the palette here, so I'm going to wet the brush. Now I'll take you to my close-up so you can see the painting. Now I'm going to turn it upside down. So the sky's down here at the bottom. I'm going to start with the sky. So I get the painting up. I got water upside down. I'm going to do a little wet on wet up in the sky. So I'm going to start here with the. I'm going to paint around those shapes there for this splashing wave, and okay. Now I don't want that too. I just want a damp paper, so I'm going to take up. I went back, rinsed out the brush on a sponge. And then what I'm doing now is I'm wiping up the excess moisture. Picking up the excess moisture. Okay. Okay. But the next thing, let's go back to the overhead camera. Now I'm going to I'm going to pick up a little bit of that Alizarin Crimson. Now I got the 1" I got the 1" flat brush here. And I'm going to go ahead and put that into the sky. A nice light mixture here of. I'm painting the sky here. I'm going to swoop you back to the camera. I'm going to use 2 cameras today, kind of move back and forth a little bit. So you'll see what I'm doing on the palette, and you'll also see what I'm doing on the paper. And I hope I can keep those straight. Now I'm going to leave a dry edge here for that splashing wave, because that'll show. That's going to be my show tell here. That's the main part of the painting today, the crashing wave. So there's a light wash of you see it, just a very light wash of Alizarin Crimson. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the overhead camera. Now go back to the palette. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of Cerulean Blue, just a little bit on the brush. Just to wet the brush with Cerulean Blue. I'll go back to the overhead. Now I'm going to just drop in a little bit of blue color in the sky. A little bit of cerulean on top of that Alizarin Crimson. Now working down here by the Cerulean Blue will be a little bit. The sky will be a little bit lighter at the bottom, so I'll use my Cerulean Blue here along the edge. And I'm creating a dry edge here, a dry brush edge here along the edge of the. All right. Okay, now I'll take you back to the overhead again. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of ultramarine blue now in the brush. A little bit of ultramarine blue. Load up the brush. Now I'll come back to the overhead again. Okay, so now with the ultramarine blue, I'm going to go in and get a little darker blue up here in the top. So I've got a multicolored sky. It's going to be a little bit, like I said, I got that blue and that Alizarin Crimson in there. Give me a nice purplish color. It's got blue in it. That's enough, but a nice hint of blue. A little touch of red. All right, now we'll let that dry. And so what I'm going to do, I'll turn this around now. I'm going to go ahead and blow dry that. So, okay, let's get the blow dryer. We'll get the little, what's this called, this brush? This one here? The heater. Okay. Okay. Anyway, my little heater here is nice and quiet, so you can hear me talk while I go along. So I've added to the sky. I went with
I
a
think it's
wet on wet.
Ranger.
It's a Ranger.
Yeah.
Heated. It's a Ranger heated tool. Yes, it really works very nice. It's fairly quiet so you can hear me talk as I go along. So I've added a wet on wet. I wet the sky with just plain paper or water on the paper. And then I put in a little bit of Alizarin Crimson first. And then on top of that I added the Cerulean Blue and Ultramarine Blue. That gives me a nice multicolored sky. I like that. Nice light color. I'm not trying to match the photograph. I'm just going ahead and make up my own colors. Yeah, check that out on there. Okay. Okay, it's dry enough. You check the paper with the back of your hand. If it feels warm, it's dry. Okay. All right, now I'm going to leave the paper where it is. And now I'm going to go back now and I'm going to pick up another mixture. So I'll go back to the overhead camera. And I'm going to mix up on the water behind the wave. I'm going to use a little bit. I don't want Alizarin Crimson there, so I'm going to make sure I got the Alizarin Crimson out of my mixture here. All right, now wet the brush. I'm going to use a little bit of Cerulean Blue. So this will be now the water's a little bit darker than the sky. So you do Cerulean Blue, mix it with a little bit of Ultramarine Blue, be a little darker. Okay. And make it a little bit darker. A little bit darker. Yeah. Okay. And I'm going to put a touch of Payne's Gray in there, just a touch to dull it down. Payne's Gray will neutralize that bright blue, green, blue. So I don't want that to be so. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to make sure. I'll go back to overhead camera. Okay. Now I'm a close-up camera. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and paint in that water. So I'm going to come across here to the horizon line.
It's showing the palette.
No, I'm painting now on the paper. Okay. And I'm going to leave a little hint of some waves out there. So I'm going to have just leave a little white paper showing. And I'm trying to make that horizon as level as I can. Horizons are always level, so you don't want to have too many slants on it. You it might have a little wave action back there. That's about all, but it should be fairly level with the eye. Now coming close to this wave here, I'm going to make sure I got a hard edge here on this, and also. I'm picking more paint up from the palette. Load my brush a little bit, and I'll pick up a little bit of Payne's Gray in my brush. Just changing. Every time I go back, I'm changing the color slightly. Pick up a little bit of cerulean, maybe a little bit more ultramarine. I'm going to leave a little bit of white paper showing up here, just to give a little bit of wave action in the water. And that's just my interpretation as I go along. I didn't draw that in, but I went ahead and I'm going to keep this now. Now I come to this extra wave down here where it's hitting the shoreline, the rocks. I'm going to leave some hard edges. So I do a little rough brush strokes down here just to give it a texture, edge of this breaking wave. Over here I'm going to leave some white paper showing. Picking up, loading the brush again. Pick up a little more of that Payne's Gray to make it a little darker in here. A little darker as I come forward. Have some dark shadows in the water from the wave action. So as I come close to the wave section here, I'm leaving white paper, and I'm also making sure I got a white a hard edge, and also irregular edge. Okay, all right. And there's no just a little hint of it over here. The water has just a little hint. I'm going to put it right in here. Continue the horizon line. Right in this section here. And again, as I come into that waveform, I'm going to leave some white paper, and I'm going to make sure I have a rough edge. Maybe leave a little indication, maybe a slight wave action back there. Now, this is a very small area, so I just want to get enough in there. A little shape in there, just a little shape, make it a little interesting. Okay, that's as much water as I'm going to put in there. That's the sky and the water in. Let me wash out the brush. Okay, my next area is going to be the rocks. So let me go back to get back to my palette and see. I'm going to use I'm going to use this brush. Okay, all right. Let me go to my overhead. All right, now I'm going to mix up some rock color. I'm going to use the number 16 round and put a little water. Now I'm going to use a lot of the dark colors here, but I'm going to use yellow ochre down here in the bottom. Start with yellow ochre. All right, now I'm going to mix up a little bit of burnt sienna. A bit of burnt sienna here. Okay, then I'm going to pick up a little bit of Payne's gray here in the corner, darken it up. A little more Payne's gray. Okay, well, this is going to be the color of my rocks. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over here now. I'm going to give me where's my drawing, my painting? Okay. Okay, my design, I have these larger rocks over here on the side, and some other rocks here in the foreground. So I'm going to start putting these in now, these dark areas with the dark brown. Okay, so I'll start with I'm going to start with the yellow ochre first. This will be the kind of the top of the rock. Make them a little lighter. I'll start with a little bit of that yellow ochre on top of the rock. There's a light, because there's a light hits the rock, it's going to have a little reflection up there. But then I go right ahead and start putting in some of that dark value. This is where the wave has hit the rock and it's wet. The rocks are wet, so they're going to have a lot of dark areas from the water. And a little burnt sienna will make it be a nice color mix in there. As I come down further down, I'm going to get darker because I'm into the water now, next to the water. So the water is really going to have a wet. It's going to have a wet factor. Now, building rocks, I'm trying to do a layer here where I have rocks, some rocks in front of other rocks, different sizes, different shapes. So I'm going to simulate here that I have. I'm just going to get started here with this color. Leave some white paper, and I'll go back in there and clean up some more. This is another rock here coming forward. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry I didn't take you to. There, good news. All the channels are on. Gloria just told me. Very good. I hope you're seeing this. I'm trying to switch cameras today so you can see my palette when I mix the colors, and also I meant to switch you over here to watch my painting also. And the brush strokes are, I'm using this large round, number 16 round, and it's loaded with dark brown, which is a mixture of burnt sienna and Payne's gray, and a little yellow ochre in there to give me a lighter value. So there's no real discipline on making rocks. They just have to look irregular with some grooves in them and so forth. Let this kind of dry a little bit, and I'll come back and put in some more color there. Bring this up a little bit more. Take it out to the edge. Okay, now I can let that one sit there, and that's the larger big rock. I may go back and put some darkers in there. So let me go on, and there's a rock down here in the water. Using the same combination of colors, dark brown. Now these rocks here are in the water, so they're wet, so they're going to be dark. And I've got another rock in here. These are rocks that I drew up on my. I didn't follow the photograph. The photograph had some rocks in, but I wanted to put a little more rocks than what they showed on the photograph. And that's my decision. As an artist, you can add and take out things of it. You don't want to follow paintings exactly. Paintings are good references for color and maybe some shapes you want to use, but then you want to also look at other photographs or come up with your own shapes that you prefer, and that's what I like to do. I like to put in the shapes that I like in addition to what's there. I can never find a perfect photograph or a perfect landscape setting, even when I'm doing plein air. There's always something you have to change to make it a more interesting painting. You got to change the colors, you got to change the shapes, you have to add shapes. But as an artist, that's what you can do. So I'm building up the foreground now. There's another set of rocks over here I want to put in. These rocks here in the middle ground, they're just forward of this large splashing wave, but they're also going, as a wave comes over, it's going to wet all these rocks. So they get wet. They get wet from the spray. There's no doubt about it. And some more, I've got some more rocks here next to the coming up next to the wave, a little bit more here. Kind of ahead of that one. There's a couple smaller rocks I want to put in right up here, right at the base of the wave, right at the base. Just they're kind of hidden at the base of the wave, but there are still little rocks there. Put those in, and then there's a large area up here in the foreground I'll put in. So I'm getting a dark brown, and I may go back and put some darker value. I just want to get a base coat in there to get my shapes in. So right now I'm establishing my shapes with this paint I have now on the brush. It's just this is a little bit of burnt sienna and some Payne's gray mixed in with a little bit of yellow ochre. So it makes a nice, beautiful brown color. The color of rocks. Okay, center it up a little bit now. Now I think I'll go back now and add a little touch of dark in there, a little more darks. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of that Payne's gray, mix it in with that burnt sienna, get a nice dark brown on the dark side. Okay, and then take you back to the overhead again. And I'm going to go in now. I'm going to put in some these areas that are much darker. These are kind of like the grooves and the shadows in the rocks. Now watercolor will dry a lot lighter, so what I want to do is make sure I put in a nice dark value because it will lighten up on me when it dries. So even because the paper absorbs the paint and it lessens the intensity of the color as it dries. So that's something you have to be used to in watercolor. It's never going to be the same. It's never going to be the same value when it dries as when you put it down on paper. It's always going to change. And as long as you know that, and as long as you practice that area and remember that when you're painting, that you got to put in a little bit darker value than what you want to see. If it looks good on paper when you put it down, it's wrong because it's going to lighten up. It's going to lighten up. Now I'm going to take a little bit of that yellow ochre, and I'm going to go back in here now and put that in here with its lighter areas, and let that kind of blend. I'm letting it blend in by itself. That'll give us some lighter areas for the rocks. Okay, now let that dry. There's some. I left some white showing also, and that's good. Another mixture here, and I'm going to go in here and make these a little darker next to the water, especially. Break these up a little bit. These shapes, break them up with little dark areas. I'm going back to the palette, picking up more paint. The edges close to the water, especially, are going to be dark. This area down here is going to have some darks and some lights because it's flat, and the water's running over it. But it's not all dark, and it's not all light. It's a mixture of lights and darks. I just want to get a nice dark value, a nice dark shape. Yeah, rocks have smooth edges, they have rough edges, they have round edges, they have straight edges. You can kind of work around all kinds of shapes with that. And you can see how that first color lightened up quite a bit here, so I got to go back in here and darken these up. These up here are really wet, so they're going to be darker. Okay, now I got a nice layout of rocks there, of different colors, different values. And we'll let that dry by itself. My next thing I want to get into the wash and the wave. Okay, and that's probably the most interesting part of this painting is the wave itself. And how I'm going to paint that is what I want to demonstrate today. The crashing wave. So I'm going to wash out my round brush here. I'm going to use a round brush, and I'm going to use a mixture of ultramarine and cerulean blue with a little bit of. I'm using the same colors I use for the sky, basically. A little bit of Alizarin Crimson. That's a really dark red, but it's going to be light, and I'm not going to use that dark, but I'm going to use that combination. So it's going to be, when you mix the blue and the red together, you get a purple, but then you mix a little bit more of that combination, and it turns into a grayish color. And that's kind of what I wanted to see. So I water that down a little bit, and this is going to be the shadow part of this wave. Now, you'll notice here I'm going to leave the edge of this wave white, because that's where the light is hitting that water. But back here where the water is thicker, it's going to be in shadow. And I'm going to pick a little bit of it up here. I'm taking a towel now, and I'll pick up a little bit of excess moisture. just a little bit. And let's see, working over here on this side. I'm going to pick up a little more, make this a little darker over here on this side. Make it a little darker over at the edge. I'm keeping those edges of the water where it's splashing up. That's a hard edge, and I'm keeping that white. I'm not putting any paint out on there. I'm just painting on. I'm painting the shadow portion of the water. That's the back part of the wave. Okay. There's a little bit up here in this section. The one that's hitting the rock. Okay. I'm going to hit this with a little bit of towel. Gives me a little variety of that. Don't want it all the same. I'm going to change by picking it up with the tissue. It's going to give me a little variety of color. Okay. All right. Now the last thing I want to do is paint, and I'm going to let that dry by itself. I'm going to paint on the foreground water, which is going to be reflection in the water, but it's also going to have rocks under the water. So I'm going to use a combination here of all the colors that I have here on the palette. My browns and blues and a little bit of reds and everything. And maybe a touch of green. Maybe a touch of green here to put in the... now the wave's going to come in here, and the white water is going to come in and hit into these rocks. So I'm going to paint what I figure is the underground or underwater rocks that are there. Also, the water is a little bit in shadow. And so I'm painting in like the rock formations and the water flowing around these rocks. Kind of an irregular shape. I'm going to try to connect them a little bit so there's a pattern here. So I'm creating a pattern here of the water flow. And I'm going to change go back and I'm going to pick up a different color, a little more blue, maybe a little more alizarin crimson in that mix. And back here I may leave a little more white paper to show there's a bigger flow of the foam. The foam is coming from the crash wave will be back here. Okay. There are lots of ways to interpret this. You look at many pictures of the crashing waves and look at flowing water, and you'll get lots of interpretations. It's just best to come up with a design and come up with a pattern. Now I'll take a little bit of that green. There's a little bit of green I have here. And just kind of put the green in there, kind of show maybe some moss or something under the water, not on the rocks. Just a hint. Especially up here close when you can see it more. As you go further back, it's not as evident. And a little bit of Payne's Gray. I might use some shadows in the water. You got to keep it fluid. and keep the brush moving a little bit. These are like rocks under the water. Very shallow water here. The water is just moving across the top of it. I'm trying to make a variety of shapes and a variety of colors here as I go along. Okay. And then I can take a little bit of that blue now. A little bit of cerulean blue, light color blue. Make sure my palette's clean. Up here I'll show you what I'm doing. I'm mixing up a nice light blue. Nice light blue with cerulean blue. And I'm going to go in here now and cover up some of this white. And it'll show a little bit of the sky. A little bit of sky color here also. Also blocking in some of the white. The white is the foam of the water. There's also water and wetness on it. It's going to have reflections of the sky. Quite a combination there. Okay. Okay, let's take a little breather there. Let's see where we are. Let's do a little review. Make sure if there's any changes I want to make before we stop here. Okay, what I like to do is just put a mat around it, and you see what it looks like. I check my paintings, always check my paintings with a mat around it, just to give an idea of what looks on there. Yeah. Okay, it's centered on there right on my view. Yeah. It's on my view. Okay. Okay. I think I'll go back and work a little bit on the waves. I mean, a little bit on the water. So I'm going back with the brush with a little bit of paint in it. I'm just going to smooth out some of these curves. They don't have to be smooth, but I want to make a little more connection. There's a lot of irregularities in the water. There's nothing perfect. So my impression here is to make this look like rough water, make it look like it's foam. See the reflections of the sky in the water, the action of the wave on the rocks. That's what I was trying to capture today. So the water is moving here, moving back and forth slowly, and it's coming in off of that big wave crashing down the rock, and it's kind of covering the rocks here in the water and the rocks underneath the water. This is a flat surface, so I'm using flat strokes here, like kind of side to side. Okay. Okay. Now the one thing I wanted to show you here was the last little technique I'll show you was I go back to my overhead. I have this little baby toothbrush here, and it's small. So what I'm going to use here is I'm going to put some white paint on it. I'm going to do a little flicking motion with my thumb, just run my finger over it. And before I do that, I'm going to show you a little test sheet here. So I've got some dark paper. Let me go back to my other camera. And I'm going to load up here with, let's see, I've got the wrong camera. I got this camera on. Okay. The white paint's over here on the side. So I'm going to load up my toothbrush with paint. You can see the white paint on the toothbrush. And I'm going to use that motion. And you can see there, see the drops that I can make the drops there. So that's what I'm going to use now to add a little bit more texture to the painting. Just use a little bit of splatter off of the toothbrush with white paint. And I'm going to use it in that wave formation. Okay. So let me get this dry paper over here. Now let me go back to my close-up. All right, so the wave now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up some of that paint on the toothbrush. And first thing I want to do is I want to test it out on a piece of paper. Test it out. Okay. I've already done it. I've tested it once before, but I'll make sure always test your paper, always test your brush out, or the stroke out, or the amount of paint. You want to test it out before you try it. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is come over here and this section here where I got this shadow, and I'm going to add some splatter in there. Okay. Got to add a little more water to the brush. Okay, come back in here and I'm going to splatter some more. Okay, now it's working a little better. Okay, now I'm going to get that splatter that I want, okay, over top of the wave. So I'm adding that now to the paint that I left on the paper. I go right up here as high as I want to go. Go across here. So it's going to, the water in the background is going to help me define that, the blue water in the background. Okay, now if I can bring it up close now, you can see the splatter that I created on top of the wave right there. Okay. All right, now I get my hands dried up. I get paint on my hands. Okay. All right, so you could add as much as you want a splatter on it, just enough to indicate the splatter of the paint on the paper, and that gives you another interesting effect of the splatter. Okay. So that crashing wave now, let's put the mat board around it. Okay, now we build it up a little bit. Now we add a little more dimension to the water. And we've got a little more texture to the spray. Move that up a little bit. You can see that much better. I get the there. Okay. Well, there's my crashing wave. And the last little step I did was with the toothbrush, just splattering the white paint on top of the wave shape, and a little bit of over here on top of the rocks. Okay, I'm going to take you back to the main camera. Ooh. Okay, okay, that was a interesting little demonstration today of the crashing wave. I started out with a little rough today with getting started, and I'll try to explain to you how the computer just stopped working, so I had to go back and reload. I did some adjusting of the cameras again because I want to get the focus off, because my hand movement makes it change the focus on autofocus. So I put it on manual. Okay, then I went ahead and did the painting. I think the wave itself, you see, I did a backlit wave where I had the sun coming through, and I put shadow on the forward part of the wave, and left the edge of the wave white paper. That gives the impression of the edge of the wave, or the shape of the wave at that point. Then I painted around that and I added rocks and so forth. Then I went back in with the toothbrush with white paint. A Chinese white is what I used, and just did a little splattering with the toothbrush to add more detail. And I think it turned out very effective. That's another way of doing it. I could have used my Palette in a Bottle, Everetts Watercolors, sold exclusively on Everetts Watercolors. I could have used the white paint with a spray bottle, with a dot spray. But I decided to use something different today. I used the toothbrush. So there's several ways of doing that. You can also use the brush and just do some splattering. That way you want to cover up the area, because the splattering may be a little bit uncontrolled depending on how you use the brush. Again, practice on a piece of paper before you do it on your painting. Just like I did with that toothbrush, I practiced on that dark paper before I put it on the paper itself. So you all be back here next week on Thursday at 2 o'clock p.m. And I'll be here this evening at 7:30 p.m. with Simply Drawing with Everett. At 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. And on the weekend, I'll do Simply Drawing with Everett on the weekends. You'll catch that on Sunday. So until then, you all stay safe and stay warm. It's getting chilly outside. At least it is here. So I imagine it's getting chilly everywhere else too. So winter time is here, and you all stay safe. And I'll see you on the next live video.